The poor student named Daniel lived a life filled with struggle, hope, and silent pain. He was intelligent, hardworking, and full of dreams, but poverty followed him everywhere like a shadow. Daniel lost his father at a young age, and his mother worked long hours cleaning houses just to keep food on the table. Every day, Daniel promised himself that one day he would change their lives through education. Daniel studied at a university on a partial scholarship, but it was never enough. He worked nights at a small cafe, washing dishes until his hands ached and his eyes burned with exhaustion. Even then, his tuition fees kept piling up. One morning, he received a notice from the university if he failed to pay the remaining fees within 1 week, he would be expelled. That day, Daniel sat alone on a bench outside the campus, staring at the ground, feeling completely broken. All his effort, all his sacrifices, seemed about to disappear. That was when he noticed a woman standing nearby. She was elegant, around 71 years old, with silver hair and calm eyes. She looked wealthy, but there was something gentle and sad about her expression. She spoke first. "You look troubled, young man." Daniel hesitated but then opened his heart. He told her about his studies, his financial struggles, and his fear of losing everything. The woman listened silently, without interrupting. When he finished, she surprised him with an unexpected proposal. "I need a companion," she said softly. "Someone honest, someone educated. If you agree to marry me, I will take care of your education and your future." Daniel was shocked. He thought she was joking. A poor student marrying a 71-year-old millionaire woman sounded unreal, even shameful, or she was serious. She explained that she was alone, had no family left, and wanted peace and respect in her final years. Daniel spent sleepless nights thinking. Society would laugh at him. People would call him greedy, but the fear of losing his education was stronger. With a heavy heart and countless doubts, he agreed. The marriage was simple and quiet. No music, no celebration, just signatures and silent witnesses. News spread quickly, and as expected, people judged him harshly. Some mocked him, others called him a gold digger. Daniel avoided social media and focused on being respectful and kind to his wife, even though the marriage felt strange and distant. They lived in her large mansion, but Daniel felt like a guest, not a husband. The woman, whose name was Margaret, treated him with dignity. She never demanded anything. She encouraged him to study, rest, and focus on his goals. Still, Daniel carried guilt inside his heart. He felt he had sold his dignity to escape poverty. 7 days after the wedding, something unexpected happened. Margaret asked Daniel to join her in a private room he had never entered before. The room was quiet, filled with books, photographs, and documents. She sat down slowly and handed him a file. "I think it's time you know the truth," she said. Daniel opened the file with trembling hands. Inside were legal documents, bank statements, and a will. As he read, his heart began to race. Margaret had already transferred a large portion of her wealth into an educational trust. The trust was designed to support underprivileged students exactly like Daniel *. But that wasn't the biggest shock. The will stated that after her death, Daniel would not inherit her wealth for personal luxury. Instead, he would become the caretaker of the foundation, responsible for funding education, scholarships, and shelters for poor students. Daniel looked up, confused and overwhelmed. "Why me?" he asked. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. She took a deep breath and pointed to a framed photograph on the wall. It showed a young man, smiling, full of life. "That was my son," she said quietly. "He was your age. He died years ago. He believed education could change the world. When I met you, I saw his kindness, his determination, his soul." Daniel was speechless. "This marriage," Margaret continued, "was never about money or loneliness. It was about trust. I wanted to see if you would treat me with respect even when you thought the world was judging you, and you did." Daniel felt tears roll down his face. All his guilt, all his confusion, turned into deep gratitude and responsibility. He realized that what looked like a transaction to the world was actually a mission. From that day on, Daniel's life changed because he became rich, but because he found purpose. He completed his education, not just for himself but for thousands who would follow. Margaret passed away peacefully years later, proud and content. And Daniel. He became the guardian of a legacy that proved one powerful truth. Sometimes, what's like a shocking decision is actually destiny in disguise. A poor student named Ethan never imagined his life would take such a strange turn. He was 22, struggling to survive in a city that never showed mercy to the poor. His days were spent attending lectures, and his nights were spent working as a delivery boy. Even with all his effort, he barely earned enough to pay rent, let alone university fees. One evening, after receiving his final warning from the university about unpaid tuition, Ethan felt completely defeated. He sat alone in a quiet park, questioning his future. That was when an elderly woman approached him. She was 71 years old, dressed elegantly, with sharp eyes that carried years of untold stories. They began talking. Ethan didn't know why, but he opened his heart to her, and he told her everything: his poverty, his dreams, his fear of failure. The woman listened carefully, without judgment. When he finished, she said something that froze him in place. "Marry me," she said calmly, "and your financial problems will end." Her name was Eleanor, a well-known millionaire businesswoman. Ethan thought it was a joke, even an insult, but she was serious. She explained she was alone, had no close family, and wanted companionship in her final years. In return, she promised to pay his tuition, living expenses, and secure his future. After days of inner conflict and pressure from his situation, Ethan agreed. The marriage happened quietly with no celebration. News spread quickly and people mocked him. Some called him heartless. Others said he married for money. Ethan heard the whispers but stayed silent. He reminded himself that this was a sacrifice to save his future. Eleanor's mansion was massive, cold, and strangely silent. Many rooms were locked, and Ethan was told not to enter them. Eleanor was kind but distant. She followed a strict routine and often disappeared for hours. At night, Ethan sometimes heard soft crying coming from behind closed doors. By the fourth day, Ethan began to feel uneasy. Something didn't feel right. Eleanor would stare at him for long moments, as if comparing him to someone else. Sometimes she called him by another name, then quickly apologized. On the sixth night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He noticed a faint light coming from one of the locked rooms. Curiosity and fear pushed him forward. The door was slightly open. Inside, he saw walls covered with photographs, hundreds of them. A young man appeared in almost every picture: graduations, birthdays, smiling moments frozen in time. The young man looked painfully familiar. He looked like Ethan. Before Ethan could react, Eleanor stood behind him. "I knew you would find this room," she said softly. Ethan turned, his heart racing. "Who is he?" he asked. Eleanor slowly walked inside and sat down. Her hands trembled as she picked up one photograph. "This was my son, Michael," she said. "He died 10 years ago in an accident." Ethan listened in silence. "He was poor, just like you. He believed education was the only way out. He worked endlessly, just like you. And when I saw you sitting in that park, it felt like the past had returned." Ethan realized the truth. This marriage was never about love or money. It was about grief. Eleanor explained that after losing her son, she closed herself off from the world. Her wealth felt meaningless. She tried charities, donations, and therapy, but nothing healed the emptiness. When she met Ethan, his kindness and struggle reopened something inside her. "I didn't marry you to replace my son," she said. "I married you to save someone before it was too late." Then came the real shock. Eleanor revealed that she was terminally ill. She had only months to live. She had already arranged everything legally. Ethan was not inheriting her wealth. Instead, he was named the executor of her estate. Her fortune would be used to fund scholarships, build schools, and support poor students worldwide. Ethan's role was to ensure her son's dream lived on. "I needed someone honest," Eleanor said. "Someone who wouldn't steal, run away, or betray the purpose." Ethan felt overwhelmed. He had expected money, maybe comfort, but not responsibility this heavy. In the following weeks, Eleanor taught Ethan everything: how to manage the foundation, how to judge people, how to protect the mission from greed. She wasn't preparing him to be rich. She was preparing him to be strong. When Eleanor passed away peacefully, the world reacted with shock. Headlines focused on the strange marriage. Critics expected Ethan to disappear with the money, but he didn't. Single quotes. Years later, Ethan stood on the stage of a newly built university funded by Eleanor's foundation. Thousands of poor students had received education because of her legacy. Ethan finally understood the truth behind those 7 days. What shocked him wasn't the locked room. It was the realization that sometimes the darkest secrets are born from love, loss, and a second chance to change the world. A poor student named Ryan had always believed that money could solve all problems. Growing up in a broken neighborhood, he had seen dreams die every day, not because people lacked talent, but because they lacked resources. Ryan promised himself that if he ever got a chance to escape poverty, he would take it, no matter the cost. Ryan was studying business at a small college while working part-time as a store assistant. Despite his efforts, unpaid tuition bills continued to chase him. One afternoon, he received a final notice: pay within 7 days or leave the college forever. That same evening, fate introduced him to a 71-year-old millionaire woman named Victoria. Victoria was powerful, confident, and intimidating. She spoke directly, without emotion. "I know your situation," she said, "and I know you want money." Ryan didn't deny it. She offered him a deal marriage in exchange for financial security. No romance, no illusions, just a contract. Blinded by desperation, Ryan agreed almost immediately. He didn't ask many questions. He didn't read the fine print carefully. The wedding was private. Cameras appeared, rumors spread, and Ryan became the center of gossip. People accused him of selling his soul, but Ryan smiled through it all. In his mind, he had already won. He imagined luxury cars, expensive suits, and a life free from struggle. Victoria's mansion was grand, but cold. She barely spoke to him. After the wedding, on the first day, her lawyer handed Ryan a thick envelope. Just standard paperwork, the lawyer said. Ryan signed without reading. By the third day, things began to change. Victoria watched Ryan closely, how he spoke to staff, how he treated her, how he spent money. Every move felt like a test. Ryan, however, began demanding more: better clothes, access to accounts, expensive dinners. Victoria said nothing. On the seventh day, Ryan was summoned to a legal meeting. Several lawyers and advisors filled the room. A document was placed in front of him. Your marriage contract, the lawyer said calmly. Ryan laughed. I already signed it. Yes, a lawyer replied. But you never read it? The truth hit him like a storm. The contract stated that Ryan would receive nothing, no money, no property, unless he fulfilled strict conditions. He was required to show respect, loyalty, and moral conduct. Any sign of greed, abuse, or neglect would not only cancel the agreement but place him in legal debt for breach of contract. Even worse, Victoria had secretly recorded his behavior since the wedding. Luxury spending, disrespect toward staff, arrogance, all evidence. Ryan felt his chest tighten. His dream was collapsing. Victoria finally spoke. I've met many men like you, she said. Men who think marriage to wealth is a shortcut. She revealed the real purpose behind the marriage. For years she had been targeted by gold diggers and manipulators. Instead of running from them, she created a trap, one that exposed greed through legal truth. This was never about giving you money, she said. It was about testing your character. The final shock came next. Ryan wasn't free to leave. Breaking the contract meant paying back every dollar spent on him: tuition, housing, food with interest, a sum he could never afford. Ryan broke down. For the first time, he saw himself clearly, not as a victim, but as someone who chose greed over dignity. Victoria gave him one final option. You could walk away ruined, she said, or you can stay, work, and earn forgiveness. Ryan chose to stay. The following months were the hardest of his life. No luxury, no privileges. He worked within Victoria's businesses. Starting from the lowest position, he learned humility, discipline, and responsibility. For the first time, money was earned, not taken. Slowly, Ryan changed. Years later, Victoria revised the contract. Ryan was freed, not rich, but respected. He completed his education and built his own future honestly. The marriage ended quietly, but the lesson remained forever. Sometimes the real shock isn't losing money. It's discovering who you truly are when greed is stripped away. A poor student named Lucas grew up believing that life was unfair. No matter how hard he studied or worked, poverty always stood in his way. His father had died early, leaving his mother to struggle alone. Lucas dreamed of becoming an engineer, but dreams felt useless when rent, food, and tuition demanded money every month. One day, Lucas received the news he feared most. He would be expelled from university if he failed to clear his dues within 7 days. That evening, as he sat quietly in a public library, a 71-year-old woman noticed him. She was graceful, calm, and clearly wealthy. Her name was Catherine. After a long conversation, Catherine made a shocking offer. She wanted to marry Lucas. Lucas was confused and embarrassed. He assumed she was lonely or joking. But Catherine explained that she had no family left and wanted someone honest by her side. In return, she promised to support his education and living expenses. With no other way out. Lucas agreed. The marriage was simple and quiet. People talked. Some laughed. Others judged. Lucas ignored them and focused on being respectful. He treated Catherine with kindness, never asking for money, never making demands. He lived simply, even inside her luxurious home. What Lucas didn't know was that Catherine was watching everything. She observed how he spoke to staff, how he reacted to criticism, and how he handled discomfort. The mansion had cameras, but not for security, only for observation. Catherine wasn't looking for a husband. She was looking for a successor. For years, Catherine had built an empire: businesses, charities, schools, but she trusted no one to protect her legacy. Family members had betrayed her, business partners had cheated her. She needed someone with character, not blood. 7 days after the wedding, Catherine asked Lucas to join her in a private study. She handed him a tablet and played a recorded video. In the video, Catherine spoke directly to the camera. If you're watching this, she said, then you've passed the first test. Lucas felt his heart race. She revealed the truth. The Marriage was never about companionship or pity. It was a carefully designed test to find someone worthy of carrying her life's work forward. Lucas was shown legal documents. Catherine had already named him as the future head of a foundation, not owner of her wealth, but guardian of her mission. Every dollar was tied to education, healthcare, and opportunity for the poor. Lucas was stunned. "Why me?" he asked. Catherine smiled. "Because you never asked for anything." He explained that during those 7 days, she had placed temptations in his path: open access to luxury, silent approval to overspend, chances to abuse authority. Lucas rejected them all. That was the shock. Not money, not secrets, trust. In the years that followed, Catherine personally mentored Lucas. She taught him leadership, ethics, and responsibility. When she passed away peacefully, the world expected chaos. Instead, her legacy grew stronger. Lucas completed his education and became a leader known not for wealth, but for integrity. Thousands of students received scholarships under Catherine's foundation. Lucas often remembered those 7 days, the quiet test that transformed a poor student into the guardian of a legacy. Because sometimes the biggest rewards are given to those who never asked for them.